Then with Cleopatra it was very different because Zanuck had left Fox. So when Dad came on, replacing Mamoulian, when Elizabeth Taylor said, I will have no one but Joe Mankiewicz, Zanuck was not in the picture. He was off doing, finally, probably what he had always been angling for, which was directing his own film and being the creative, on his own film, which was The Longest Day. So he'd left Fox. He was doing his own thing. He was not at all going to be part of the disaster and the dynamic of then, because the studio system was collapsing. Fox only had Cleopatra at one point in production, as Dad, suspected, and he was right. Every expense at the studio was being put onto the Cleopatra production. They basically, it went on for so long, and it's ironic because the letter talks about, we're talking about a 40-day shoot, and that, Dad sort of feeling bad and trying to rationalize why he might have taken an extra day, or sort of saying, how can I shoot 18 pages in 5 days or whatever, and yet, neither man knew that 12 years later, he would be on a film that was meant to take 40 days or something and took more than 2 years, saw the collapse of the studio system, saw Zanuck brought back in to rescue Fox, but given more power than he ever had. And I'm sure it was Dad's absolute worst nightmare, because again, Zanuck came in having done Longest Day, so he was not going to have Cleopatra be this, creative success, in competition with the film he had just, it was the worst timing possible. And this letter sort of, foreshadows, exactly, foreshadows that.
The last question is all about Eve. Where did that come from in your father's mind?
All About Eve, All About Eve was a, where did it come from, and how did Dad get the idea and how did he develop it? It was actually a property that Fox had bought. It was a very small article in Cosmopolitan. As they were all under contract, he actually wrote All About Eve the same year he wrote No Way Out. No Way Out was Sidney Poitier's first film. No Way Out, he was also nominated in the original screenplay category, and that was, he also worked with Zanuck. It was a social, Fox had 3 or 4 social films that they were, very passionate about. All About Eve was adapted from Mary Orr's short story, which was called, I think, I want to say it's The Wisdom of Eve, but it may not have been because that's the other film. And he invented the characters. Obviously all of the dialogue is his. The structure is his. Mary Orr was a young journalist who spent time with a woman named Elizabeth Bergner, who was an old Austrian actress who told sort of a fireside story, in upstate New York or something, about this, this woman who had come in and tried to sort of usurp and take over her life. As Dad said, and would, there were probably only about 10 original stories in the world, and this is one of them, the younger person usurping the older person, by devious means. Addison DeWitt, Birdie, there are many, many characters in All About Eve that are completely original. Obviously, the dialogue is completely original, the structure is completely original, but the core idea was a property that Fox bought, and Zanuck probably likely said, Joe's passion is theater, here, have a go. And he went up to a ranch outside of Santa Barbara and wrote it all in 5 weeks. It just poured out of him.